Well, the market for meat appears to be fearless right now. It continues to break some new ground, and the last week's market information from Meat and Livestock Australia has the Eastern Young Cattle Indicator at 873. That's the price per kilogram carcass weight, and that is up 211 points on a year ago. And that is massive, isn't it? That means it would have been 662 back 12 months ago. So we're really talking here of around about a 25% increase, which is quite significant. As you start to head through some of the yarding type detail from last week, and a significant yarding with the prices being pretty good, there was 49,436 head of stock that were presented for sale at the MLA registered sites last week. And that included through Victoria nearly 10,000, 9,912 in Victoria, a low yarding for Western Australia just over 2,000. South Australia were 2,357, Tasmania just 120, but the big markets last week were in Queensland nearly 20,000, and in New South Wales just over 15,000 were in the sale yards last week. Now let's have a look at where this leaves the Meat and Livestock Australia's indicators for the week. And just to give you an idea here, the cattle, if you take the medium steer category, and this category would have an average then price per kilogram at just under 400 at 398.8 cents a kilogram. And that is slightly up on last week's numbers. Let's go across the board. In New South Wales, at that medium steer category, 402.3. At Queensland, 388. South Australia, 408. Tasmania, 392. Victoria, 421 to be the highest for the medium steer category in cattle. Western Australia down at 355. Having a look back at the yarding for sheep last week, and across the nation, we saw a yarding of 278,000 head. That ranged 192,000 lamb and 85,777 sheep. In Victoria, the yardings numbered 101,000, which was the biggest yarding, while in South Australia, 26,700. In New South Wales, 118,000, and the Wagga yarding at 25,000, and Corowa at 12,700 in those figures. The reality of those figures breaks down then for what is a very important indicator amongst sheep. The heavy lamb category is one to choose. Quite often we look at light lamb, but the heavy lamb at 846 cents a kilogram nationally. And if you then break that down across the states, we see that in heavy lamb category, it's 853 for New South Wales. Queensland down at 767, South Australia 807 around the average, and then Victoria 850, Tasmania 725. There were no heavy lamb presented for that category for Western Australia. So there's some numbers from last week. I think the key one though is the Eastern Young Cattle Indicator, up on last year by 211 points, which is quite significant.